Good morning, folks. We're back out at the shop today and we've got another lantern to work on, but it's not a Coleman lantern today. When you first look at it, it kind of looks like a Dietz lantern, but it's not a Dietz lantern either. This is, it says the Warren Stamping Company, Warren O USA, and I should have Googled it to see for sure, but I'm guessing that's Warren, Ohio, USA. And this side says Stay Lit number 2 CB, it looks like. And it's a little beat up. I don't know if this will be able to pick up any of the words on there. Probably not, but a little beat up. It's definitely had, at some point, something has come down and crushed it down, or it's been dropped and landed hard or something. But it's got a dent there. It's got a little bit of a dent on this side. I'm not going to try to straighten those because I don't have any way to get inside the tank and straighten that out well. But there is a whammy right there that I'm going to try to get at least a little bit more straightened out, and then I'm gonna have to seal the fount. There's a little pinhole right there, and the bottom of it got all kinds of this, some kind of white gobbledygook smeared around there. So it's been leaking in the past and somebody's already tried to seal it up. I don't know what that oval right there is. I wonder if there was a sticker on there when it was new. I don't know, but there definitely was something there, and it's got a little bit of paint still hanging on underneath of that. It's got a Dietz globe in it. Dietz D-Light, New York, USA. So it's the same size lantern as a D-Light, but it is a Warren Stamping Company. I didn't have one of those when I saw it, and it was cheap and in decent enough shape. I figured I'd go for it. It says January 10th, 05, January... I can't read the rest of it. Maybe when we get some Scotch-Brite and hit that a little bit. There's some patent dates there on the top of the lantern. All in all, it's in pretty decent shape. The burner lift assembly is just hanging loose there, but all the parts are there. You can see right over here on this side where it was soldered in there, and it's come off probably when it got banged or dropped or whatever happened that bent this poor thing up the way it is. It's also missing the cap. I don't know what other companies might add a cap that was the same as that, but there's a piece of a cork down in there right now, and that may be what it gets back in there for the time being, as I might have to find another piece of cork that'll fit in there if we don't have a junk lantern around here that's got the same type of cap. If anybody watching this knows what other lanterns might have that same threads, leave it down in the comments, because I would like to find a cap that would fit it. But for right now, we're going to try to get the burner lift assembly all put back together and soldered back in place, and then I'm gonna scrape all that stuff off the bottom, put a little piece of tape over that pinhole that I showed on the side there, and we've still got a little bit of gas tank sealer. The gas tank sealer stuff is expensive, but it's kind of nice because it's very thick, so if this bottom's in pretty rough shape when I scrape that off of there, it doesn't matter much. That stuff won't ooze through holes very small before it sets up and seals. So I think first thing I'll get the globe out of here so I don't end up hurting it. that wire is just supposed to go in the hole in the frame over there, and then the other side, the bracket's there. So I'll have to try my soldering skills again and see if I can get that soldered back on there. Let's see if I can pop what's left of that cork out of there. There's quite a bit of something rattling around down in the fount. Well, that wasn't down in there very far, but there's what's left of the old cork material that they were using. What's down in there, but I do have my borescope camera out here so we can take a look. All right, let's take a look down in here and see if we can see anything. The inside looks pretty decent. Oh, there's a chunk of something. I don't know what that is. Oh, it looks like more of that cork that fell off the bottom of there. That's probably what we're hearing rolling around.
Makes sense.
But it's not, surprisingly, it's not too rusty in there. Try to see if we can see over at the other side. There's the wick. And right there, there's another chunk of something over there. I don't know if that's more cork or what it is, but whatever it is, we're going to have to try to get it out of there. But, is that light turned up all the way? Oh no, that goes even brighter. The inside doesn't look too crusty and rusty. Let's see if we can get those chunks out of there. Try to take this off and get this burner out of the way. The hole underneath the burner might be larger than the hole for the fuel, so it might be easier to try to dump stuff out of there through that. It looks like it should turn a little, that tab should go over and then pull out underneath the raised portion there. It already wiggles around, so it shouldn't be too terribly hard. There we go. Just the actual burner itself was a little stuck and hard to get it to move. The burners are made so that you can turn that, and that burner will turn in that slot too, so it just pops over and comes right out. Good piece of wick on there. The wick actually looks a little wider than the burner, like they got it crammed in there, but if it'll feed through there, that's all that matters. Yeah, it's a little tight. It doesn't want to feed through there easily, that's for sure. Might have to see if I've got a correct size wick for that. Heck, that wick looks like it's a full inch wide to me. For right now, let's see if we can dump out anything out of here. Oh, goodness. Oop. Stay there. There we go. Big old chunk of cork.
Get that or the dog with it.
He's preoccupied right now. I got him a big old dog bone from the dollar store. It's probably the unhealthiest dog bone you can give him, but he likes it. Well, I don't hear anything else rattling around in there, so I think that got most of it, but there was quite a bit of stuff in there. We'll use the stuff that came with that sealer kit to flush that out good. I'm surprised that that sealer kit is still liquid and not completely gone hard, because that was probably, yeah, it was probably close to a whole year ago that we opened that up.
And it's probably at least 5 years older than that.
Yeah, it sat around here for a long time before we ever used it. Okay, the first thing I'm going to try to do, see if I can do anything about that dent right there. Then I'll scrape all this white stuff off the bottom. And then maybe I'll put the sealer in and nah, you know what? I'll go ahead and put this frame back on there and solder that on today. Then I'll put the sealer on and we'll put it all back together in a couple days when that sealer has had a chance to dry up. I don't know how hard that's actually going to be to get that to move. I don't want to make it worse than it already is, that's for sure. Ooh, that's pretty stiff. Pretty stiff. Let's see here. Let's fold that over and maybe I can get in there with a kind of a flat little punch that I got here and a hammer and try to bend that back out a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I would like it to be good enough that when it sets on the table it doesn't rock back and forth on that bent part. So let's see. No matter what I do, my hands are going to be right in the way probably. We'll see if we can kind of straighten that back out a little bit. I moved a little bit. We need a sandbag. That's what Dad and I were talking about before I started recording. Well, most of that white stuff fell out of there when we were beating on that. I don't know, underneath of it, it looks... Oh, that's coming off too. I don't know. That's whatever this stuff is that I said there might have been a sticker. That's the same that's under there. So that very well could be original paint that's still some of it underneath where they put this white stuff on there. Most of that white stuff removed itself for me when I was banging on that. Actually, I guess it really doesn't even matter if that sticks in there. It doesn't have to be out of there. And I'll just knock the stuff that comes off real easy off of there and leave the rest of it there. That looks like solder there. So somebody's been in the bottom of this lantern trying to get it sealed up in the past, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to try to put the burner back in there. Or not the burner, the cage. This piece over here was soldered on right there. You can see where the solder broke. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of sandpaper or maybe a wire brush or something and clean it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to put a whole bunch of flux in there. Try to get it propped up to where I can just lay some solder on there and heat it up until it melts in there. And hopefully that'll hold it back together. This frame just sticks in the hole on that side. And then this side comes around there. Maybe for while I'm putting this together, it might be helpful just to have this
Help settle it.
yeah, just setting back on there so that it's got something to hold everything in the correct location. Got a little screwdriver bit for the cordless drill. Put that in there and it'll hold that up out of the way while I'm trying to get everything stuck back in there where it belongs. There we go, that works good. Having that cone back in there kind of holds everything a little bit closer to where it's supposed to be, so I can figure out how that was in there. Curtain now, that's not. Okay. No. Let's see. Well, this part over here, that is where it would catch when it raises up. So that's got to be around the other way. Oh, I see here. I see. It's got to come clear around the bend on there. And then around that side of that wire. It sits down in there just like that once it's all in there. Maybe while I'm soldering it, it would be helpful to have that raised up. Oh, there, it slid right down in. There you go. Slid right down into where it's supposed to be. This bail is still bent a little bit. It needs bent out this way a little more so that it's sprung up against there. But that fell right into place exactly how it's supposed to be right there. And if I just hold on to that, yeah, that definitely will function correctly. So I think I'm gonna clean this up as best I can, try to get it propped up somehow so I can lay it down. Ooh, maybe on this side would be better. Lay it down, get a whole bunch of flux in there, get some solder in there, and see if I can just heat it up until the solder runs down in where it's supposed to be. I'll pause the camera till I get everything where I think I need to have it. Okay, I got this thing laying down here. I got another one of these acid brushes. It isn't really an acid brush, but I'm going to try to spread a little bit of flux down in here. I'm going to see if I can get that piece out of the way for a second. Put a whole bunch of flux down in there so that once it starts heating up, it'll melt that flux. I'm pretty sure all this solder on here is a previous repair where somebody else already soldered it back together once. But I'm not positive of that. Yeah, I'm going to try to just goop a bunch of it in there. It'll melt and run out the backside when I start heating it up. There's not a lot of room to get your fingers down in there. There we go. Alright, let go of that piece now so it'll, there we go, squish right up in there. Brush a little bit more flux on the outside of that. I cleaned it up best I could with this little brass bristled brush. That would be kind of nice if that would be a little more out of the way, but there's not a whole lot you can do about that because it needs to be right there in the position where it's sitting. So I'll just have to heat around it, I guess. Not the best design in the history of lantern lift levers, but if I can get it gobbed back in there, it just might work. I'm just going to try to heat it up a little bit, and then have this piece of solder that I can just put right down in there, right over where the crack is, and try to heat it up, get it to melt down into the crack between the two surfaces, and hopefully that will hold it. There, it looks like a little bit of the old solder is starting to melt there. Let's see if we can get that new chunk of solder kind of laying in there close to where it needs to be. No, the whole thing moved. Get back down there.
Like that.
Yeah, every time you... Ooh, that's warm. Every time you touch that, it moves a little bit. Alright, let's see if we can get everything to heat up together here. Problem is, once I laid that piece of solder in there, now I can't see any longer if the bracket's exactly where I want it. I think that's close enough. Try to hold that with pliers. Start heating up this solder and see if we can get it to melt down in there.
Looks good.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Alright, let that set and cool for a couple minutes. Well, it's not the prettiest solder job in the world, that's for sure, but every time I try to heat it up and get it to flow down there a little bit more, it flows out somewhere else that I don't want it to, so it's going to be good enough. Okay, we're going to put some sealer in here. We got this kit that we bought that's a fuel tank kit. I'm going to put a little bit of acetone in there and swish it around. Then I'll be able to see any place that it's leaking out, like right there. I know there's a little pinhole right there. I'll be able to see any of those spots, and I'm going to dry it up and put a piece of masking tape over each one of those spots that leaks so that this stuff doesn't try to ooze out through those holes. And then this stuff somehow has not gone solid inside the can in the last year. We're going to pour some of that in there, swish it and slosh it all around so it coats the whole inside of the tank. Well, it's leaking out already, I see it.
Okay, I'm just
Yep, that's that little pinhole over there.
looking all around the bottom where that caulking was.
Yeah, it must be. I got my thumb over this hole and it's still dripping from everywhere, but I'm gonna slosh it around, dump it out, put a little more in, slosh it around, dump it out. Well, we got our blowgun that's on the air regulator stuck down in there, blowing a little bit of air down into the tank. to help flash that acetone dry out of there. We'll let it sit like that for about 10 minutes or so. That ought to have it dry enough that we can put the sealer in there. Leo's still down here working on his dollar store bone. It's keeping him pretty well entertained. Dad's just sitting there being dad.
Yeah.
He keeps himself pretty well entertained all the time. We'll let that blow in there for about 10 minutes or so and get that dried out, and then we'll try to get some of this thick sealer dumped in there. Okay, we got a funnel kind of wedged down in there. I'm going to put my screwdriver bit back up underneath here to hold that up out of the way. Try to pour a little bit of this sealer down in there. What's that?
Stir that up first.
Yeah, we can try stirring it up. This stuff is very thick, so I figured a funnel might be my best bet to try to get it in there without making a total mess. I can't believe this stuff didn't dry out. It says, like, once you've opened it, it won't stay good, but
That looks fine to me.
yeah. For this application, the thicker it is, the better. It'll coat the inside, so.
This might be the end of it here.
That's what we said the last time we used it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice blue stuff, but I don't necessarily want to get it all over the outside of the lantern. So let's see if I can pour some of it in there without getting it on anything that I don't want it on. That should be plenty, because we just got to get it in there and then mix it all around so it coats and covers everything inside of there. Now, I'll pop this funnel back out of there and try to not drip it on anything when I get it out of there. It's already lifted up almost as high as it'll go. There we go, that's fine. It doesn't need to be up anymore now.
I'll pick that over.
Yeah, take it over and wash it out with some lacquer thinner or something. Now I'm gonna have this blue stuff all over my hands for a while. I don't know what makes Leo think that he's promoted to sitting in Dad's chair, but he just took it over there. I put one little piece of tape over the hole where I knew there was a pinhole. Surprisingly enough, where we straightened it out, it did not leak when I put that stuff in there. So we just gotta, when I put the acetone in there, it didn't leak at the crimped seal where I had straightened that back out, which I thought for sure it would. Now we just gotta sit here for a little while and kind of roll it all around so that that stuff flows around and coats everything on the inside of there. It'll ooze right down into all the cracks and seams and hopefully seal this fountain up to where it never leaks again. The lantern obviously hasn't sat outside for years, and as good a shape as most of the metal is in, I'm surprised that it had as many spots leaking as it did. But
microphone.
No, it was already there. I figured I sat this down right on top of it, but I don't think I did. Yeah, get a couple more paper towels. There's a drip here and a couple more drips over there. It should be smeared all over everything. I can't see down in there worth a darn. And I sure as heck don't want to stick my camera back down in there with this wet stuff in there, so I'm just going to keep rolling and sloshing around for about another 10 minutes here.
You ever notice when we use carb cleaner, it's always that empty can?
Yeah, there's no full cans apparently. I'm gonna have to order more of it. I just buy our carburetor cleaner and brake parts cleaner a case at a time off of Amazon. It's cheaper that way than buying it a can at a time at the store. And we go through enough of it that it doesn't hurt to have a dozen cans of each.
Leo.
Leo, get away from those. Trying to eat Dad's case of bottles of water. He already chewed the lid off of one of them when we weren't paying attention. And Dad can't put it up anywhere else, so
That's
he's
where it goes right
got to
there.
keep it right there where Leo can get it. So
Well, I can't find it if I put it away.
I'm surprised you can find it when you leave it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably pretty good. I think I don't want to dump it out and have it run down the side of the lantern, so I think I'm just going to let the little bit that's in there in the bottom stay in there. It will harden up eventually. It's not going to hurt to have a thicker coating of it on the bottom around that crimped steel and where they had all that old yellow stuff on there. It's not going to hurt to have a thicker layer over that area anyway, so I think I'm just going to take this outside, find somewhere to hang it up in the sun, and then before Dad goes Leo knocked something over and scared himself. Before Dad goes upstairs tonight, he can bring it in and hang it up in the side building. This stuff just reeks. It's strong chemical smell. Sure, it's good for you. Okay, folks, it's next Wednesday. The sealer's been in here. I think that was Tuesday last week when I put the sealer in here. So it's been in there for 6 days. It says to give it 24 hours to dry, so it's had plenty of time.
Same thing.
Oh. Well, you can see a little bit of blue from the sealer on the tape. And I thought I'd have something I had to clean off of there, but the spot where it was on there barely even left a little speck on there. You can't even see it. If you're not looking for it, you wouldn't even know where it's at. I wish I would have brought my borescope camera back out so you could see the inside of the fount. I tried taking a picture with my cell phone, but it doesn't do it any good. But I'm not gonna spend 15 minutes driving home and back to get that camera now. But it looks the same as it did before, only it's got a thin blue layer sealer over it now. So you can just picture that in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna put this back together. I thought I had a lead on a vintage cap to go on here, but the guy's a scammer and just trying to scam me out of my money, sending me pictures of caps for Coleman lanterns and stuff, so I gave up on that. I'm gonna have to order a new one. People said that Lehman's has new ones that'll fit in there, so I'll get a new one. I was really hoping for one with some patina to match the rest of the lantern, but it sounds like that's not gonna happen. I did find one that'll work temporarily though. Cork, like what was in it before. It was in another lantern we got hanging out there in the rafters, so we'll put that in there for now, and then when I get my new cap from Lehman's, I'll bring this out and stick it back in the other lantern that's hanging out in the rafters of the side building and save it for later. We might need it for a temporary cap again at some point in the future. So let's put this back together.
I better work on getting that globe cleaned up.
Yeah, I don't know why you're slacking.
Globe cleaned up?
That's your job. I don't know why you're waiting so long. It's been sitting out here for a whole week. Okay, this wick, I don't know how well the camera will show up, but this wick that's in here is like it's too wide. It won't crank up and down. It's not stuck, but it won't crank up and down worth a darn. And it just seems like it is squished on the sides to go in there. Like it wants, like it's supposed to be, like it's too wide. That's what I'm trying to say. It's too wide to go through there. It just barely squeezes through. It won't crank up and down worth a darn. So I got some of this new wick that I've showed in a couple of my videos. That I got it soaking in a can of kerosene there. I'm going to take this old wick out. We'll save it. I might come across another lantern that is supposed to have this 1-inch wide wick, but the other wick that I've got is 7/8 inch, and it looks like it's supposed to be just the right size to go in there. This 1-inch wide does not want to go in there very well, so I'll save it with my other old used wicks because it's in good shape. I'll save it, and most likely someday I'll find something that needs it. Before I put the new wick in there, I'll go ahead, dump some fuel in here, see if I can overflow it, dump it all over the place, make a mess. It's Dad's fuel, he paid for it, so it doesn't really matter if I dump it all over the table.
It's only $5 a gallon.
I think it was about $6.50 a gallon when I bought some last summer.
Cheap for lantern fuel.
Let's see here. I'm gonna check. I don't want to dump it and make a mess again. In the Steam Gauge and Lantern Company video, I ran kerosene all over the place. Well, I dripped it all over, but yeah, that's plenty full. Dripped it right down the side of the lantern. That makes it harder to tell if it's still leaking somewhere if you just go ahead and get fuel all over the outside of it right off the bat, so it looks like it's leaking even if it's not. Let's see here. I got kerosene all over the place. Just can't have nice things. It dripped over here on my nice rubber mat so that people don't worry about me scraping the lanterns around on the tabletop here.
That's why they all leak.
Probably is. They've spent 100 years of being roughhoused like that. Oh, well, I didn't need that anymore anyhow. All right, let's get the new wick out of here. This is some of that wick that I bought off of Amazon. I'm not crazy about it, but I've got it, so I'm going to use it all up. I got 3 different sizes of wick, like 7/8, and then 2 smaller sizes, and it's going to take me 100 years to use it all up because each one was a 6-foot roll. But that fits in there better. That looks the right width, and it lets me crank it right up and down. Doesn't have a bunch of resistance like the fatter wick had in there. Now I'm dripping more fuel all over my rubber mat here.
And the bottom of that lantern's looking pretty wet on this side.
It sure is, isn't it? I'll be. Huh. Well, I definitely didn't think it would still leak after putting that sealer in there. And I feel like I turned and turned and turned. Oh, by God, it is leaking right where I had that piece of tape over there and that sealer. That's exactly where it's leaking at.
I'll be darned.
Huh. Well, I guess for now, I'll try putting a piece of tape back over that and get it to stick maybe, or I don't know.
If you try to solder it, you'll probably just make the hole bigger.
Well, if I try to solder it, it'll probably burn that liner that I put in there too.
Yeah.
Huh, I certainly did not figure that this would be an issue. I'll pause the camera for a minute and I'll ponder exactly what I'm going to do about this. Okay, well, I think we got a temporary fix that'll let me get this thing going. I can take it home and I'll light it this evening or this afternoon and I'll just let it go. I got a hook out in a tree in my backyard. If it starts leaking again, it'll drip in the yard instead of dripping on the pool patio. But I put a little plug over the outside of it there, and the stuff is this 3M strip caulk is what it's called, and it's just super sticky, black, rubbery. It sticks to anything. We've had it out here at the shop, I don't even know how many years. That box is antique probably.
Oh yeah.
But I stuck it on there. I tipped the lantern clear up on its side, cleaned it with some denatured alcohol so that stuff would stick, stuck it on there, and it seems to be holding right now. It's been on there, sitting here for, I don't know, 5 minutes again now, and it's bone dry around it now. So I think that will work good enough to get it going, get it home. I'll light it tonight and I'll just leave it go. I'm sure as much fuel as I put in there, it'll probably burn for a day and a half before it goes clear out. But I'll light it tonight, let it burn all night tonight, and when I go to work in the morning, I'll just leave it hanging out there and let it burn tomorrow too. So let's put, Dad got the globe shined up. It's got a nice Dietz globe. I wish it had a Warren Stamping Company globe. I don't even know if they had embossed globes with their name on them, but it would be cool if it did. But got a nice Dietz globe for it. Let's get this flipped out of the way here so that I can get my burner cone back in there. I already set the burner back in there. The cone just has little locking tabs on the side, just one of the few ordinary styles that they have. Nothing real special about it. Goes down over the pins and then turns a little bit to lock it in place. Glass goes right in here. I did spring those back in a little bit so that they're a little tighter fitting on the side of the lantern. Now I gotta flip that back down to get it to go back in there. There you go. Pretty nice looking old lantern for what it is. I guess it's a pretty rare lantern. I didn't even realize that when I bought it. I paid $25 for it at an antique store. And I only bought it because I'd never heard of Warren Stamping Company. I honestly figured that it was probably made by a different company and just branded that way, and then found out later on that it definitely was its own company. So I need to do a little more bending on my lever here. When it comes up, it doesn't quite want to latch in and stay up all the way. But that poor thing was pretty mangled too. Well, let's get a lighter. See if this little girl will light up. There we go. This wick that I bought from Amazon, I'm just not real crazy about it. I think if I cut like a U shape in it or something, I'd get a little bit more of the flame to spread out maybe, but it just makes a very straight, flat flame if you cut it straight across. But it's burning.
Yeah, it's nice.
Burning nice. Since I want to get the fuel all burned out of it, I'll take it home and I'll go ahead and light it back up 1 or 2 this afternoon because, like I said, I bet it'll probably take 24 to 36 hours to burn all of that fuel out of there. The ones that I lit last winter that weren't even clear full of fuel went a day and a half and they never did run out. So there you have it. Warren Stamping Company Stay Lit #2 CB. I don't even know what the CB stands for on there. Oh, Cold Blast. Yeah, #2 Cold Blast. That makes sense.
Kind of bent, kind of sideways,
Yeah.
kind of crushed, but it's kind of neat too.
It's had a rough life, that's for sure, but I'm not going to do anything more to it other than after I get it empty, I'll flush that fount out again and get some more sealer in there to get that hole to quit leaking. Other than that, it'll stay just like this. I even like the old bent crooked bail on it. I won't even try straightening that out. I'll leave it just like it is. So I'll get a little shot of this at home tonight after it gets dark outside. Well, it's about 8:30 p.m. and it's just starting to rain out here. There's storms on the way, and I've got this lantern hanging here in the tree, and then I've got my Sears single mantle lantern sitting back there on the picnic table, my Sears single mantle gas lantern. So I need to get that put in the garage, and I'm going to move this one over to the carport and hang it up in the carport. That way it's not out here getting rained on all night. So let's grab this one, take it around over here to the carport. So I got a little short chain with a hook on it here in the carport. And I can hang that up and just let it go in there. It'll be in out of the weather tonight, but I can still run the fuel out so I can put some more sealer in there. Leo, that's enough. Okay, you can probably hear the rain hitting the tin roof. I need to go back and get my Sears single mantle lantern and get it put in the garage. So, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already hit the like or the subscribe button, please do so. Leave a comment. Come on back next week. We'll have a video something here for you to watch. Thanks for watching, folks.